Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Football Queensland edition of the Village Law SEQFC preview show. My name's Darren. We have got guests coming out of all of our bits tonight. So let's get cracking. We've got Tony Jorkis is back. Tony.
Good evening everyone. How are we?
Good, mate. You must have dropped half a kilo with that shave that you did this morning.
Yes, I have. I feel, it looks a bit odd.
How much money did you raise?
Just over 5K.
5K? That's impressive.
Yeah, there was three of us. It was myself, my son, and another group. So we did it as a group because of what happened. Obviously, you all know what happened. And we did it as to raise money for stillborn babies.
Right.
Yeah.
So, some people do fun runs. All you had to do was grow a beard.
I couldn't run to save my life, mate. I'd rather go eat.
It's good to have you back. All right, no Liam tonight, so we've just got Tony with us. Now, we'll introduce our guests as we run through the competitions. First up, we've got Darren Sime from Lions FC. G'day, Darren.
Evening, how are we?
Good, and it's a great time to have you on the show. Massive 3-1 victory over the runaway leaders of the competition on the weekend. Yeah,
it was a comprehensive performance from us. We're proud of the boys' performance. Obviously, there's a lot of pent up, So certainly, when I realised that we were going to be playing Peninsula on the first game back, it was a good sign for us because it's always the motivation was there. It didn't take a great deal for me to get them motivated. But no, I was really happy with the way the boys played. There was certainly areas that we need to improve on, for sure. They're a bit rusty, in particular that second half when we were under the pump, when they came back out and pressed us. We're looking for them in those situations. But in saying that, first game back, a little bit rusty. There's a lot of positives to take out of it for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of rusty teams playing on the weekend. It's just on Lions season as a whole. I mean, we normally expect to see you guys right up the top or thereabouts. Haven't quite got it going this year, have you?
Yeah, I suppose it's a fair assessment. I think the draws have hurt us. There's no doubt. When you're leading games and winning comfortably, and other teams pop up in the night. I think probably 3 games where we've conceded in the 90th minute, and everyone knows that being part of those games, it feels like a loss. Even it is a draw, but it feels like a loss, and that impacts on enthusiasm and they start questioning things. But the season's actually panned out the way I thought it was going to pan out. I always felt it was going to be a difficult year in regards to, there was a bit of a turnover. Other teams had turnovers, but, those teams like Moreton Bay, East, even Sunny Coast Wanderers, who were able to retain the bulk of their squads, are always going to be better for another year together. And obviously, the Olympics of the world and Gold Coast Knights are always going to be strong as well. So for me, I always felt it was going to be a lot closer this year. And obviously it's came to fruition. I think there's only 4 points difference in the top 6 or 7. So after Power, of course. But we're excited. Obviously we'd like to be a little bit closer to first place, but all in all, considering the turnover we've had, I think the season's kind of panned out close to what it was going to.
Just on that, Darren, you've lost a lot of players in the off season for all the right reasons, in that they've all gone to sign contracts with the Raw and the like. we didn't necessarily see as many big names come into the club as we normally expect. Does this feel like it's a bit of a reset year and you're sort of planning for the future with the squad that you've got?
I think you've nailed it there. I'm certainly looking over the next few years. If you look at the average age of the squad over the last couple of years, it's, you know, getting up there. I think it's really important that the club looks at bringing through a lot of our younger boys. I'm an ex-junior of the club and I know how much it means to play for the first team. So first and foremost, my priority is trying to promote from within. So for the 16s coming into the 18s, we've retained most of them last year. 18s into 23 the same. So I'm quite committed to bringing through Lions boys, Rob Askew as well in the women's space. But, you know, so we were very, very selective on who we targeted coming into the squad. We've brought in, obviously, Finn Beakhurst, you know, Max Mikola, Alex Fechner. They're all south of 23, you know, so they've still got their best years ahead. But we've been really, really happy with those boys coming in. And again, next year, I'm again looking to bring in as a young, quick, and can play a brand of football that is going to be exciting for the club.
We've also got your operating officer here, Rob Scanlon, who's with us. G'day, Rob.
Hey, mate, how are you?
Good, good. Now, I've got you here for a couple of reasons. But before we get to the main reason that we've got you on, I just want to ask, with COVID and all the lockdowns and Lions being such a massive club and having that big club to run, that's got to have affected the bottom line. And has that flowed onto the football operations and how much money that the club can spend this year?
No, not at all. We were quite fortunate that. Well,
Okay.
to be honest, we were quite fortunate. So COVID was a bit of an unusual one for us. The 3.5 months that the club was closed, the licensed club that is, was closed. There was obviously no income. Was you know, a bit of a tough time, and we all the management.
Oh, still be with us, Rob. Rob is actually still at Lions. I hope he's paid the electricity bill. Hopefully he'll come back to us there. There we go. Tony, what do you think about Lions this season?
Well, it's not the normal Lions of old, like you said it earlier. Normally they're in the top 2 or 3. But I still think they're the team that can cause problems if they do get in the top 4.
Yeah.
If
Well, quickly,
they'll play power again, and look what happened last year.
Exactly. Yeah, of course, they had the big win to get through to the grand final, which they then, of course, went on to win.
That's correct.
So let's have a quick look at the weekend's results while we'll see if we can get Rob back. So Gold Coast, 2-0 win over Capalaba. Moreton Bay, 6-1 over Strikers. Lions, that 3-1 win over Power. Logan and Magpies had a 1-1 draw. Brisbane Roar, 3-1 over Redlands United. That's, of course, Raw Youth. Olympic, the big 2-1 victory over Gold Coast Knights. Scotty McDonald will be our guest on the show, new coach of Gold Coast Knights. He'll be on the show next week. Sunny Coast Wanderers, they've rocketed up into second place with a 4-0 win over Easts. Here's Rob coming back now. And, of course, last night there was the match between Gold Coast United and who did they play, guys? Moreton Bay, that's right. And 2 players sent off in the first half for Gold Coast United. And last minute goal that Moreton Bay to finally get the 3 points. I don't know if it's been edited or not, but I encourage you to go back to the full stream of that game and just turn the sound up at the time of the 2 red cards. Just listen to that 5 minutes. That's a very entertaining 5 minutes of footage. I won't say any more on that. Rob, are you back?
I am, mate.
Excellent. All right. Did you want to finish what you were saying?
Yeah, so I was just saying that we were quite fortunate that during the 3.5 months that we were closed, obviously no income coming into the business. The management group sort of sat down and went through, what we could do, how we could continue out the season, how the club could reopen. And I think, out of the football budget alone, I think I had about 15 different variations as every month and week sort of progressed. So it was a bit of a challenging time, but we were lucky when we reopened from COVID. We were, the people sort of came in droves. So we were pretty close to back up and operational and doing, very, very well as a club. So we were very fortunate that, we were able to continue on. And, I'm proud to say that we were probably one of the few clubs that our players were 100% paid. All of our coaching staff was 100% paid as per contracts. So, big thanks to the crew here to be able to make sure that our guys and girls were looked after during that period.
Excellent. I should point out, correction there, Sunny Coast Wanderers are in 3rd place, 1 point behind Brisbane Royal Youth in 2nd. All right, Rob, we'll come back to you shortly. Let's talk MPLW and the FQPLW. We've got Anthony Costa with us tonight. G'day, Costa.
Hello, mate. Hello, all.
Great to have you with us. Mate, tell us about the season in the MPLW. What's been the Virginia experience? You've thrown together a side. How's it gone?
Oh, yeah, we had our backs to the wall when we only found out we had a license. I think it was in December, and most clubs had already signed the majority of their squads. I think going into the season, we didn't have a single person who played NPL last year, so we knew it was going to be tough. But results for us, which is weird because I'm very competitive, results this year didn't really matter for us. It's about setting a platform to grow on, because we know that whatever we do, we have to be sustainable, because if we aren't, then we'll be dropping out pretty quickly. Look, it's been a fantastic experience. I think we've held our own within reason. Obviously there's a huge gap between those top 4 to 6 teams and us, but every time we played them, we made sure we were organised. We had a good game plan, tactically and technically we were as ready as we could, and we used those opportunities to learn. Early in the year, we beat Capalaba. I don't think many people can say they beat Capalaba. So the girls work hard for each other. The culture of the club's unbelievable this year. One of the best I've ever seen. And yeah, we're thrilled to have been a part of it this year. It's a bit disappointing with that last lockdown, because now there's a lot of clubs in the QPL who really have nothing to play for. So it's just about keeping girls fit and enjoying themselves, and trying to just continue to set that platform. So next year in the QPL, we can try and push for that top 2 or 3 spot, because realistically, that's what every club should be doing, trying to push to be as high as they can.
You said there that that lockdown has had an effect. Does this mean that the FQPL isn't playing finals?
FQPL was never playing finals.
All right. Okay. So
the season's been extended by 4 weeks. But unfortunately, I think the only teams that can get promoted are Pride, Olympic and City, I believe. So every other club's really not playing for anything at the moment, which is a little bit weird, because, we played Mitchelton on the weekends, and I was having a good chat with Tony, their coach. And even since COVID, I've lost 5 girls full-time because of, their partners are giving birth, or they're injured, or work, or university placements. And when we already had a thin squad, even literally an hour ago, I got a phone call from a physio saying another player is out for the weekends, and another girl's out for the season. So it's going to be a difficult last few weeks. But from what Tony said at Mitchelton, they're in a very similar boat. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're not the only clubs, especially in the QPLW, where we're one of those, if you're one of those clubs that really you're only playing just to kind of finish the season, I guess.
Yeah, so it's all about laying that platform. And look, you've now got a clubhouse to match, to rival Lions in size and stature, and you just got to get all those fakies in there going, and you'll be up with the big boys in no time, right?
Oh, we're getting a gold lion dropped off soon as well. So, no, look, we're thrilled to have a clubhouse. We know it's not. We know we're not going to compete with people like that, but I'm pretty sure. Like, I know the committee at Virginia have actually met with Rob and the guys at Lions, because we know we're never going to be a club like Lions, but we're a very aspirational club. And when I left Annalee a couple of years ago, people told me I was an absolute idiot. If I told you that Virginia would be an MPL, or would have been an MPLW for women 3 years ago, 4 years ago, absolutely would have got laughed out of the place. So, because the club has that aspirations, and because clubs like Lions, they're good enough to say, look, we're happy to sit down and tell you our story and what what they did and stuff. All it can do is help us grow. And we don't really want to be a Lions. Lions are Lions. Lions are the biggest and the best. And we want to do it our way. But using models that have worked in the past. And 8 years ago the club was 200 members. We're now 1,200 members. Got QPL2. We've got SAP boys and girls, MPLW youth, QPLW. And now we've got the QPL youth boys as well. So from 0% elite to 60% elite in one season. I think it just shows the direction we're going as a club, but a real credit to the committee and the staff of the club who, we're not going to sit back and just accept that we've had challenges. We're going to try and push through them, and hopefully we come out the other side better. Don't judge us now, judge us in a few years' time when we're able to actually try and put these things into place.
Before we move on to the results, I just want to quickly ask about the catchment that you've got at Virginia. Are you finding that the players at your club are locals, fresh to the game, or are you drawing players from other clubs?
As a whole, I think we've got a lot of people within the local area. Now that we've got, we're a community club at heart, but now we have pathways for high performance teams. We are finding a lot of kids and juniors, boys and girls that left the club to go elsewhere are now coming back because we are their local club. In terms of my women's team, I've got a girl that lives on the Gold Coast. I've got a girl that lives on the sunny coast. I've got girls who travel all over the place to play for us because, I think it's pretty well documented that we haven't really got a budget to work with, but what we try and do is provide the best place for girls to play football, to develop and just love the game. And we've got girls who have left other clubs because where they were getting paid, they come over to us and they've fallen in love with football again. And they might leave us to go to a bigger and better club maybe, but I think a lot of them at the moment are happy where they are. They've developed people, they've developed as footballers, they love their football, and hopefully that will translate into more people wanting to play for Virginia and helping us grow as a club, but also as a QPLW squad.
All right. We'll just very quickly look at last weekend's fixtures. So Brisbane City 4-2 over the Gap, Olympic 2-0 over Logan. MPLW, I think the big result there was East winning the points over South United. Looking at fixtures this weekend, on to round 2, we've got Capalaba taking on Gold Coast United, Easts up against Moreton Bay, Sunny Coast Wanderers against QAS, and South United taking on Lions FC. South Lions, a pick of the games there from you? Or is it Gold Coast?
I think South and Lions. I think Lions. I think they'll go through undefeated. I think they're a fantastic unit. But I think South's Rika Tano, the Japanese girl in the midfield's sensational footballer. I think is it at Lions or at Souths? Because I do think that changes things.
Pretty sure it's at Wakely Park.
Yeah, so I think Lions will probably get up. They've got a lot of quality, but playing on that pitch is always difficult, especially when Lions pitch is so big. Going to a synthetic small pitch, it is a bit of an adaptation, and I'm sure Lions will use that first 30 minutes to try and find their feet before they really push into the game.
All right. This weekend's fixtures in the FQPL Mitchelton taking on Brisbane City, Western Pride up against Peninsula, Logan taking on your side, Virginia, and Olympic hosting Southwest Queensland Thunder. The Gap have the bye. All right, let's quickly move on to the FQPL. Robert Rossi, the president of Brisbane City, was going to be our guest tonight. We'll get him on next week. Looking at results, they had a 3-1 win over the Fire. Southwest Queensland Thunder had a 4-3 victory over Mitchelton. We had Daniel Panisi from Mitchelton on the show last week. Knights 2-1 victory over Southside Eagles. South 3-1 over Wolves and Pride 2-1 over Park. Looking at the ladder very quickly, City on top by 2 points, but they've still got an extra 3 games in hand. It's probably looking at the bottom of the ladder now. It's Souths, Holland Park and Wolves making the bottom 3 points. Sunny Coast are 1 point off the drop zone, with Ipswich Knights further 2 points ahead. Tony, we're just at the bottom of the ladder in the FQPL now, right?
Bottom of the ladder, it's going to be the same thing for a while, hasn't it? So who will definitely go down?
Yep.
Who do you reckon will go? Holland Park?
If they're going to win the league, you've got to say Wolves now are in massive trouble. I think they've played their full quota of games compared to all the other teams as well. I can't see Holland Park getting up.
Eagles?
Eagles are in 5th place now on 19 points. So, you know, a couple of wins and
so Holland Park
and
and Wolves are gone, and Wolves have been the disappointment of the year because they were originally and had them as a top 4 team.
Yep.
And they've just appointed new coaches for next season, I think.
I haven't heard any news on that yet.
Fifey is an assistant, or someone else that was involved in Rochester was the first.
Yes, Wolves.
It's Mark Wills, yeah.
That today, didn't they?
So there you go.
Yep, of course, yes. So yeah, a couple of wins there, and for South United, and they can be in 5th place. Crazy. All right, let's have a look at this weekend's fixtures very quickly. All right, so we've got Wolves taking on Knights, City taking on Southside Eagles, South United host Mitchelton, Holland Park up against Sunny Coast, Rochdale Rovers play Western Pride, and Southwest Queensland Thunder have the bye. Now, anyone who was looking at our Facebook page on Friday night will see that I interviewed both the Taringa and Caboolture coach, which means that I took in an FQPL2 game. And I've got to say, Tony, I was very impressed with both teams. They could, I see them as mid-table FQPL sides. I was really impressed. Caboolture had a squad of young players. All their experienced players were unable to get back into Queensland. Now, Lee Cunningham, we've got you on the show, so let's talk FQPL2. You had a massive 5-1 win over Coomera.
Yeah, just good to be back on the park playing again, to be honest. I mean, 5-1, it's a good result, but, you know, Coomera have had a tough year this year, so you can't really read too much into it. And, you know, we tried to play good football, but we're very, very rusty. So anyone that watched that game would definitely have seen the lockdown and the time away from football taking effect.
Yeah, so how did you go with your squad? Did you give them work to do, and did they do it?
We gave them work to do. That's probably the case with most squads. Mixed bag on how fit they came back. Look, to be honest, the lockdown, I know everyone probably thinks it was a really bad thing. For me, I've got to be honest, it came at a great time for us. We've had a rough month before the lockdown with injuries and suspensions. We picked up a few needless red cards. The last game before the lockdown away at Magic on that pitch, which is just not fit for purpose. In our 23s, we had an ACL out for a year, and in the first team, we lost one centre back to a hamstring, and then the other one slipped over, fell into a player, and was sent off. So we lost both our centre backs in the same game. The lockdown for us did us a world of good. It's just about getting sharpness now. Back.
All right, so just looking at this competition, how many rounds have we got left, Lee?
5 games to play for us. I think that's the case for most teams. A couple have got 6. Some have got, it's a bit between 4 and 6 for everyone by the looks of it.
So playing each other 3 times?
Yeah, so at the moment we've played Grange all 3 times, and we've got a round left against everybody else.
Right.
Oh no,
Okay.
sorry, we've played Magic all 3 times as well. So we got the other 5 teams we've got to play once more.
Okay. And you're currently in 4th place, 3 points ahead of Magic, and 6 points ahead of Virginia. Stanford, realistically, could still be in with the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's still, the 3 of us vying for that 4th place. We've been there since round 1, so we're, very hopeful, and be very disappointed if we drop out of there now. But anything can happen in football, and Virginia certainly picked up some better results in recent times than the start of the year. So we're not discounting anyone below us until it's mathematically impossible.
And you're going to Stanford this weekend.
Yeah, big game. Really big game for us. Stanford obviously played Virginia last week, and that was a fairly tight one. The 2 times we've played Stanford so far have been very narrow wins, 2-0 and 2-1. The 2-0, the first game of the season, we didn't get the second until injury time, and the 2-1 we actually came from behind to win. So expecting another really tight game against Stanford this weekend. Change of coaching staff over there, so you never really know what you're going to get. Anything can happen. Obviously, they played their first game under the new setup and didn't get a result. So we'll see what happens this weekend against us.
Yes, Caboolture have got in touch with us to let us know that Paul Brownlee actually left Sanford Rangers and then went over to Caboolture. They just wanted to make that distinction clear. They didn't poach him. He had left Sanford and was then signed by Caboolture. Taringa.
24 hours, that wasn't it?
Surprise, surprise, eh?
I'm only joking, Terry. Don't come on.
You be on in a minute, mate. You better be careful.
I kid. We have enough of that on the bench.
All right, yes. So looking at the other fixtures, Taringa are hosting Magic United, Grange Thistle up against Virginia, and Coomera Colts are taking on Caboolture. All right, now, thank you for your time there, Lee. Now, Rob Scanlon, I want to bring you back in here. Now, the reason that we've got you on the show tonight is that the Football Brisbane zone has been split into 2, and you are, is it deputy chair?
Something like that, yeah.
Whatever title. You're a big player in the Metro South Zone. That's what it's called, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and Robert Rossi from Brisbane City is the president, whatever, of the Metro North Zone. Tell us about the split. What do people need to know about these zones being split into 2?
So I think we all know that it's sort of come from the way the reform was tried to bring through with Football Queensland. There was a few of the zones that didn't agree with a number of the reforms that were put forward. So I think there's been some argy-bargy, I suppose you could call it, between a couple of the zones, and it sort of resulted in Football Queensland sort of coming in over the top and sort of pulling rank, and then sort of splitting the existing Football Brisbane zone into 2 zones. So now into a south and a north zone. So it's effectively, Football Brisbane, but just, I suppose, like it used to be many years ago with a north and a south zone. So as part of that, Paul Swindles, who's president at Roadstyle, he's the chair at the moment. So we himself and myself are on the Football Queensland Advisory Panel, I think it's called. So we then take part in any of the discussions that take place there, and I suppose try and push the game forward and try and get away from the political landscape and try and get it back onto a football focus.
So how can you do that? What sort of changes can you affect?
So at the moment, I suppose the big one was on the weekend. So the reforms have been passed. So that's probably the big one. There was a lot of agenda points as part of that reform, which were around governance and around good governance. A lot of it was just some language change. So some minor things from chairman to chairperson, some stuff like that. So it was basically to try and make sure that the governance that was being put in place is what's recommended by Ausport. so that we're all complying, and I suppose as a code we can push forward. My understanding from discussions that we've held so far is that this won't just be a Queensland, an isolated incident in Queensland. This will be rolled out nationally from the FA. Obviously, James Johnson has come in with a number of ideas, and I suppose trying to decrease costs is one of the main ones. So if you can try and take away as many layers of governance, as many layers of administration, out of the game, then hopefully we can reduce costs and make it more affordable for everyone to play. But from our perspective, we're just trying to make sure that the reform's done. Now we can try and move on to how can we affect football and speak up for clubs where there's issues. I know the next major project's going to be around infrastructure.
Does this mean that that junior clubs or junior teams now only play teams south of the river and teams north of the river only play each other?
So this is where I think there's an announcement coming in the next couple of days around sort of like an FQPL development, which was the old Cross River or BYPL sort of system. So there'll be teams in those divisions that will be able to play across both, north and south. And then it'll break into Metro South and Metro North into, Division 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be underneath there. So more the community-minded teams.
Right. So the elite will travel. The non-elites will not have to travel so far.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So it's very similar. It's very similar to what it is now with the BYPL. So BYPL will travel north and south. It doesn't really matter. And you generally find that your divisional teams underneath that will try and stay within their regions. So generally south of the river.
Yeah. All right. One thing we should bring up is that your club made their way into the Kappa Super Cup final on the weekend in the women's competition, and they'll be taking on Western Pride.
Yeah, no, it should be a great game. Trying to find out where the game's going to be played. So hopefully it's something somewhere out this way in the Western Corridor, so that we can all get a big crowd out there and make a bit of a spectacle of what I think is a fantastic concept. I'm hoping and I'm hearing that there's potential for it to be rolled out nationally, very similar to an FFA Cup. So fingers crossed that does happen, because I know our girls are chomping at the bit to try and test themselves out on a national stage. Where do they fit within Victorian teams, New South Wales teams? We're always told that they're better, but we want to sort of challenge ourselves and see where we go.
I'd like to bring you in on this, Costa. Where do you think that final should be played?
Oh, yeah, definitely somewhere out there, because they're both around that area. I think Lions should host it. They're the highest ranked team. Get a good crowd out there. But even if Pride host it, I'm sure they'll get a big crowd. But I just hope common sense prevails, and it's not like it was in the BWPL 5 or 6 years ago when Annalee played Mitchelton out at Rochdale, and it was just. And then I think the cup game was Budrum versus Power at Rochdale. So hopefully common sense prevails and they get a good venue with a good pitch out that way, so they can get a good crowd. Should it be a standalone, or would it make a great curtain raiser for a Royal game? Oh, I think it should be standalone. Personally, I think it's a new cup, obviously, and I think it's a really good initiative. And I think it should be celebrated on its own, let it have its own day. I don't think we need to overshadow it with another game afterwards. Let it have its light and see how we go in future years. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I know the Football Queensland, they've obviously picked the date, the 24th, which is the same date that you'll see I think it's the 100th celebration for women in football. So it's all sort of lined up on the same date. So yeah, I agree. I think a standalone event, it's no different to an FFA Cup game. Should be treated similar, that it is a standalone. And the girls have never had a cup competition in the MPL, so I think we need to make a bit of song and dance about it, and get behind it. It is a good product, but from our perspective, all we want is a good pitch, something that we can play on and showcase the girls' skills.
Hey, Darren, is Rob sitting in front of your tactics board there?
No, not at all. That's in the other room. That's purely business, I think.
All right, so he's not giving away all his secrets for this weekend.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Very good. All right, all right. Tony, have you got any goss for us, mate?
No, I am hearing that there could be a bit of a player movement around amongst some players at a certain NPL club heading to what could be a newly promoted NPL 1 club.
All right. We'll have to switch the cameras off before you tell us, I guess.
While I was off the last one, I told you when we'll switch the cameras off, but I reckon I was very close.
Yeah. You were trying to tell us that the Ben Khan was going to be stumping up at...
Yeah, he advised Olympic on Wednesday night that he rejected that offer.
Yep. All right. So Scott McDonald, the new Gold Coast Knights coach.
There you go.
Yeah, and we will have him on the show next week. It was funny. I was at the Brisbane, the Celtic Rangers game at the Celtic Supporters Club, and he didn't get to watch the game. He did not get to watch the game. Just everyone coming up to him, getting a photo. His phone was just running hot. Including myself, just trying to talk to him and get a word in. So poor guy didn't get to watch the game, but with Celtic losing, didn't really matter, did it? So anyway,
He turned up in a Man City shirt as well, Darren.
I did.
I had a very reliable source telling me that you turned up in a Man City shirt.
I did. Got to support Joe Hart in Celtic goal, former City player. That's my excuse anyway.
I should have turned up in a Greek shirt supporting Ed Postecoglou, eh?
Exactly. I'm not going to be something that I'm not. All right, guys, we might leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. We're very late this evening, past 10 o'clock. I'm sure you all need your beauty sleep. So thank you all for your participation tonight. So we've got Rob Scanlan, Darren, Sime, Lee Cunningham, and Anthony Costa, and of course, Tony Jorkis. This has been the Village Law SEQFC preview show. Thank you for tuning in. Share, subscribe, do that sort of stuff, and we'll see you next week.